Where Michael Penix will be drafted tomorrow, oh my God, in NFL's round one of the draft is largely determined by his health history. However, as Mina Kimes of ESPN pointed out to us yesterday, it's not just injuries.
You would definitely have a case for top three, certainly top four. I think with Penix, it's not just the injury history that gives me and I suspect NFL teams some pause. He is an older prospect, and I know we can laugh at, like, what's the difference between 24 and 21 or what up, but it actually does make a big difference.
So here's the thing. You can hear that from Mina, and you can think, oh, my God, Mina, love ya, but what does it matter? He's going to be 24 at the start of the year. That's so young. Yeah, in real life, it's young. But there are numbers to back up Mina's point. Jason Lisk of TeamRankings.com compiled the ages of the oldest quarterbacks taken in the first round since 2010, along with some possible 2024 first-round quarterbacks. You got Whedon, who at 28.5 was drafted, still wild. Nick's next at 24. Penix there at 24. The third would be the third oldest. These other names, I mean, Joe Burrow is the most successful out of all of them. Pickett, Tannehill, Burrow, Wentz, Ponder, E.J. Manuel, Baker Mayfield you'd throw in there. And then you've got Jake Locker, though. Mayfield 23, Locker 22. That's when I kind of started to stop reading through.
Ageism. My man, he's 23. He'll be 24 in May.
Yeah. A Gemini.
Now, you want your quarterback to come in and be a leader amongst grown men.
Yes.
Average NFL team, I guess the age will say 28 years old. You got some old heads, if you want to call it old for football, that are above 30. So you're saying you want this young fella to come in and have the respect of these older fellas, to walk into the locker room and have the respect and be a leader, get in the huddle, take charge of all of that. You would think having a year or two on your competition will be an advantage because you're a bit more sure of yourself. Now, 24 is still young. I wasn't, I didn't know exactly who I was, me personally, until like 25, 26. Like, okay, I'm set. I'm comfortable with who I am. But these guys are obviously built different. They're quarterbacks. Naturally, they're better leaders. They're more mature than the average person for the most part. Until you get a Johnny Manziel in there that jacks it all up for everybody, right? But you're asking him to lead an organization, and age gives you what? Experience and confidence. And he has a whole bunch of snaps over these other guys when it comes to entering the NFL. So I'm looking at this and I go, that's funny, man, because you know, you can get a guy like C.J. Stroud, who I think is one of the more confident quarterbacks I've ever seen at such a young age, and it works for him. But there are some guys who need to kind of develop and get into those roles. And why? Because they're younger with less life experience. I'm not saying a 21-year-old can't do it, but I am saying that a 24-year-old or an older quarterback is more likely to be comfortable in his own skin and lead an organization. So I think it just comes down to arm talent. Yeah. Now, drafting someone at 28, I mean, I think that's a bit of a stretch. Who's Winky was also. Why isn't Winky on this list?
He's in the article.
It was just 2010.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
But I got the combined records for a couple of these guys, and he's on there.
Yeah. So I get the concern of the age, but I also look at the positive and understand that an older quarterback who has a bunch of snaps, who's been through a lot, can offer something that a younger quarterback can't, and vice versa. I see both sides of the argument.
I agree, and it sounds like I'm about to argue against Penix because of his age, but that's not what I'm doing. It's just going to sound like it for a minute. A separate article from Adam Rittenberg. He wrote this a couple years ago, and he did mention Winky. He mentioned a couple other guys, and he looked at the history of some of those older quarterbacks and said, look, it's not encouraging. However, this part of the article was interesting to me. He said, before the draft, NFL teams are tasked to identify, analyze, and scrutinize every detail about prospects. And one NFL scout said his organization puts an alert on the profiles, quarterback or not, of players who entered draft weekend aged 25 or older. Michael Penix will not be 25 or older, worth mentioning. The age alert isn't a do not draft warning, but it requires the team to dig a bit deeper and find context around the age. He's a 25-year-old quarterback. Why? That's the biggest thing I would ask, one scout said. Stetson Bennett's why is, well, he wasn't really recruited. Then he went to junior college and came back to Georgia. Hooker is a 6-year player. Why wasn't he good enough to come out after 2021? What the age question does is just simulate questions. It makes you ask why. So that's what we're going to do with Michael Penix, because I think Michael Penix's why is not one of concern about play. Like, if you look at a guy and he's entering the draft and he's, 24 years old, there are guys that are entering the draft older because they truly didn't have the resume, did not have the year to be able to come out and be confident they could be a first-round pick. That's not Michael Penix. Michael Penix had 4 season-ending injuries.
Yeah.
And he wanted to prove he could stay healthy. And he also wanted to be able to compete on this amazing team and go to a national title game. Like, his why to me comes back to health. And that doesn't make me concerned about him as a player.
No, I think it was important for him to go back and prove that he can stay healthy again. And especially you're looking at last year's draft too, when you got Anthony Richardson and C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young. I mean, after only having one real good year of success in college football, he's not going to jump into the pool with those Sharks and try to compare that resume. No, he's going to go back and say, look, 1, let me prove that I can stay healthy, and 2, let me prove that I can do it again and gain more experience. So I don't like that argument, especially when you're dealing with a 23, about to be 24-year-old. And now if you're looking at Wheaton, he's 28. Going to be 29, and you're looking at that big number 30 and saying, all right, guy starts to decline typically at this age, even at the quarterback spot. I understand it, but I think this is an advantage for Michael Penix.
I do too.
I think it's an advantage that he has this experience. He's a confident individual. All these quarterbacks are confident. Again, quarterbacks are just built different. I got a scholarship offer to be a quarterback. I go, nah, not my personality. I don't want that responsibility. These guys love the responsibility and thrive in those situations. So I see his age as only being a plus. At the age of 24, you get to 28, 29, 30, then I'm like, all right, there's some concerns here. How long is he going to last? How much can he change his game? Because you reach a certain age and you just are who you are as an athlete. I think at 24, he'll be fine. But again, it's just a way to, again, separate money, separate draft status. If he was 22, he'd for sure be a top 3 pick.
Well, and look, what's the draft about? It's about trying to make the most important decision that you'll make that year, the biggest investment you'll make that year, based on limited information.
Yeah.
You are going to try desperately to find anything you can. You're going to talk to a janitor at the facility. You're going to talk to a family friend. You're going to talk to, a tutor. Like, you are going to try to find everything and any red flag you possibly can.
Yep.
And if in the NFL, increasing age is already a red flag for any player, the older you get in the NFL, the less valuable you become. It's just a tough truth. Of course, age is going to be something they look at for quarterbacks, even when that age is only 23 going on 24.